I was bringing a dead man back to life when she walked into my workshop. Outside, autumn rain pelted against the windows while I hunched over the 1887 Patek Philippe pocket watch. Its delicate gears spread before me like the bones of a tiny skeleton. My fingers, steady despite 3 cups of coffee, manipulated the tweezers with practiced precision, while my heart felt as shattered as the timepiece. "Are you Layla Clark?" Her voice startled me, causing the gear I was holding to nearly slip from my grasp. I didn't look up immediately. "Shop's closed. Sign says so." The door was unlocked. A hint of amusement colored her words. When I finally raised my eyes, my breath caught. The woman standing before me was striking, tall with windswept blonde hair framing high cheekbones. Her green eyes assessed my cluttered workspace with a curator's gaze. Raindrops clung to her cashmere coat, glistening like tiny diamonds. "I'm desperate," she said, placing a velvet pouch on my counter with gentle reverence. "I was told you're the only one who could help." I sighed, setting down my tools. Everyone's desperate when something they love breaks. Her smile flickered, revealing a momentary sadness. "Isn't that the truth?" The air between us seemed to hum with something I couldn't name. I hadn't felt this, aware of another person since Caroline left 6 months ago. The thought alone made me want to retreat back into the familiar sanctuary of my work. "What have you got?" I asked, keeping my voice professionally detached. She opened the pouch and withdrew an exquisite gold pocket watch. Family heirloom, over a century old. When she placed it in my palm, our fingers brushed. The contact sent a jolt through me that had nothing to do with static electricity. I quickly pulled my hand away, focusing on the timepiece instead of her eyes. "Beautiful craftsmanship," I murmured, turning it over to examine the engraving. "Cassandra Jackson, is that you?" "Great-grandmother's watch. I'm Cassandra too, yes." She leaned closer, her perfume, something earthy with notes of sandalwood, making it difficult to concentrate. "It stopped 2 days ago. I didn't drop it or anything. Sometimes they just give up. Like relationships," I thought bitterly. "Mind if I open it?" "Please." I carefully pried open the case, revealing the intricate mechanism within. The watch was remarkable, but something was off. A tiny piece that didn't belong. Modern. Incongruous against the vintage components. "Someone's been inside this before," I said, frowning. "Recently." Her expression shifted slightly. "Is that a problem?" "Depends what they did." I met her gaze directly, and why they did it. Cassandra's fingers drummed once against the counter, the only tell in her otherwise composed demeanor. "Can you fix it?" I should have said no. My backlog was already overwhelming, and something about this woman made me uneasy in ways I wasn't ready to examine. But the watch called to me, its silent gears a puzzle I couldn't resist. 3 days, maybe 4. I wrote up a ticket, hyper-aware of her watching my every move. "I'll need a deposit." She passed me her card without hesitation. Our fingers touched again, and this time I'm certain she lingered intentionally. "You have no idea how important this is," she said softly. "Thank you." After she left, the shop felt emptier somehow. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the glass as I returned to my workbench, but I couldn't focus on the paddock anymore. Instead, I kept glancing at Cassandra's watch, wondering about the strange modification hidden within. What I didn't realize then was that fixing her timepiece would ultimately break open my carefully constructed solitude, revealing secrets that some people would kill to keep buried. I spent 3 hours examining Cassandra Jackson's watch that evening, long after I should have closed shop and gone home. There was something about the modification that bothered me, a tiny microchip expertly hidden that had no business being inside a century-old timepiece. Professional curiosity, I told myself. Nothing to do with the way her green eyes had lingered on mine. The next morning, my phone rang just as I was unlocking the workshop door. "Layla?" "It's Cassandra Jackson. About my watch." Her voice carried the same warm timbre that had occupied my thoughts all night. I cradled the phone against my shoulder, fumbling with my keys. "I haven't started repairs yet," I said, perhaps too curtly. "Actually, I was hoping we could discuss it over coffee. There's a bit more context. You should know." My immediate instinct was to refuse. I'd built careful walls since Caroline walked out, citing my emotional unavailability as she packed her things. Yet something in Cassandra's tone, A vulnerability beneath the confidence made me hesitate. "There's a place across the street. Noon?" "Perfect," she replied, relief evident in her voice. When she arrived at the cafe, Cassandra looked different, more casual in jeans and a cream sweater that complemented her blonde hair. She slid into the booth across from me, her fingers lightly drumming on the tabletop. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her green eyes meeting mine directly. "I wasn't entirely forthcoming yesterday. About the watch? About everything." She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, knuckles whitening slightly. "I'm not just any antique dealer. I specialize in recovering pieces with complicated histories." The cafe hummed with lunchtime chatter, the smell of espresso and pastry filling the air, but suddenly all my attention was on her words. "Stolen artifacts?" I asked, lowering my voice. Sometimes worse." She leaned forward. "That watch belonged to my great-grandmother, that part's true. But it was taken during World War II. My family spent decades tracking it down. I thought about the strange modification inside. And the chip?" Her expression flickered. "That's complicated. Try me." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. 6 months ago, my partner, business and otherwise, found the watch at an auction in Vienna. We'd been searching for years. A shadow crossed her face. 2 weeks later, she left. Took half our inventory, our client list, everything. The familiar ache of betrayal resonated within me. I found myself saying, I know something about that kind of exit. Our eyes met, recognition passing between us. "She added that chip before leaving," Cassandra continued. "I need to know what it is, what it does. But more than that, I need the watch working again. It's the last piece of my family history I have left. I should have kept my walls up, should have treated this as just another repair job. Instead, I found myself sharing. My ex left 6 months ago too. Said I was more interested in fixing broken watches than our broken relationship. I traced the rim of my coffee cup. Maybe she was right. Cassandra's fingers brushed mine just briefly. Some things are worth fixing. The unexpected touch sent warmth spreading up my arm. "I'm going away next week," she said suddenly. "There's this meditation retreat at Willow Creek Monastery. My therapist suggested it. A way to process everything that happened." "Sounds peaceful," I offered lamely. "It's supposed to help with heartbreak." A wry smile touched her lips, though I'm skeptical. I thought of my own sleepless nights, the emptiness of my apartment. "Does anything really help with that?" "I'll let you know." She hesitated. Unless you could find out yourself. They still have spots open." I almost laughed at the suggestion. Me, at a meditation retreat? I who measured my life in the precise movements of gears and springs? "I don't think that's for me," I said firmly. Cassandra nodded, unsurprised. "Well, your watch will be waiting when I return." She stood, leaving money for both our coffees. "Take good care of her." I watched her leave, feeling strangely off balance. That night, alone in my apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about Cassandra's story, the parallel pains we carried. I opened my laptop and found myself staring at the Willow Creek Monastery website. "This is ridiculous," I muttered, even as I entered my credit card information. What I didn't yet understand was that some coincidences aren't coincidences at all, and that watch was about to lead us both into something far more dangerous than heartbreak. The monastery loomed before me, all gray stone and quiet dignity against the autumn sky. I sat in my car wondering what the hell I was doing there. 3 days ago I'd been safely ensconced in my workshop, and now here I was with a weekend bag and directions to something called Mindfulness Cabin 7. "Just 3 days," I muttered, grabbing my bag. 3 days of peace and quiet. Willow Creek Monastery wasn't actually run by monks anymore. It had been converted into a retreat center years ago, but it retained its solemn atmosphere. Stone paths wound between maple trees ablaze with October colors, their fallen leaves crunching beneath my boots as I followed the rudimentary map I'd been given. The orientation had ended an hour ago, but I'd arrived late, caught in unexpectedly heavy traffic. Now I wandered alone, the sound of distant wind chimes carried on the breeze. The paths forked unexpectedly, nothing like the neat diagram on my paper. "Damn it," I whispered, turning the map sideways. I'd always had an excellent sense of direction, a necessity for someone who worked with intricate mechanisms, but this place was deliberately maze-like. The temperature was dropping as afternoon faded, and I shivered, wishing I'd worn a heavier jacket. Just as I was about to retrace my steps to the main building, a voice called out behind me. "Lost already?" I turned, and my heart stuttered. Cassandra stood there, wrapped in a burgundy cardigan, golden leaves caught in her blonde hair. Her smile held surprise and something else I couldn't quite interpret. "You came," she said simply. "I came," I echoed, feeling suddenly self-conscious, though I'm regretting it now that I can't find my cabin. She laughed, the sound bright against the hushed landscape. "Where are you headed?" "Mindfulness Cabin 7. "You're not even close." She gestured toward a path I hadn't noticed. "That way. I'm in 8 just next door." Of course she was. The coincidence felt too neat, too arranged, but her evident surprise seemed genuine. "I'll walk you," she offered. "I was just exploring. The grounds are beautiful." We fell into step together, silent for a moment. Her shoulder occasionally brushed mine as the path narrowed. "Why did you come?" she finally asked. "You didn't seem like the meditation type." The honest answer, that I hadn't stopped thinking about our conversation, about her, felt too revealing. Instead, I shrugged. My apartment felt too empty. Thought a change might help. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I've been staying in hotels since she left. Can't bear to be in my place for too long." The path curved around a small pond where yellow leaves floated like tiny boats. I watched a leaf catch the current, spinning slowly. "You know what's strange?" I said suddenly. "I can fix any watch, no matter how complicated, but I can't seem to fix myself." "Maybe because you're not broken," Cassandra replied softly. "Just wounded." Her words caught me off guard, and I looked at her, really looked, for the first time since we'd met on the path. The evening light caught in her eyes, turning them a deeper green. Something shifted between us. The air suddenly charged. "Here we are," she said, stopping before a small cabin. "Number 7. "Thanks for the rescue." "Any time." She hesitated, then added, "First group session is at dinner. Want to walk over together?" I should have said no. Should have maintained some distance. Instead, I nodded. When she turned to go, I found myself calling after her. "Cassandra?" She looked back, eyebrows raised. "I'm glad you're here," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Her smile bloomed slow and genuine. "I'm glad you're here too, Layla." As I watched her walk to her cabin, the late afternoon sun caught in her hair, turning it to fire. I felt something dangerous unfurling in my chest, something I'd sworn I wouldn't feel again after Caroline. Later, as I unpacked my things, I found myself thinking about Cassandra's watch still sitting on my workbench back in Lexington. The mysterious chip hidden inside its antique workings. The way she'd said her ex-partner had installed it before disappearing. On impulse, I pulled out my phone to call my assistant and ask him to examine it more closely, only to discover there was no service at the monastery. "Perfect," I muttered, tossing the useless phone onto the bed. When Cassandra knocked on my door an hour later, her smile dispelled my irritation. As we walked to dinner, our hands brushed once, then again. The second time, neither of us pulled away immediately. I didn't know it then, but that simple touch was the beginning of something that would either heal us both or break us completely. The dining hall was housed in what must have once been the monastery's refectory, high ceilings with wooden beams, long communal tables, and surprisingly excellent food. As Cassandra and I entered, conversation hummed through the space, punctuated by the clink of utensils and occasional laughter. "Not exactly vows of silence," I murmured, scanning the room. "That starts tomorrow," Cassandra whispered back, her breath warm against my ear. 3 days of complete silence. "Hope you're ready?" Before I could respond, a tall, lean man with salt and pepper hair approached us. He wore what I'd come to recognize as the unofficial retreat uniform, loose linen pants and a simple shirt, but carried himself with unmistakable authority. "You must be Layla," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Brother Michael. Not an actual brother anymore, but old habits die hard." I shook his hand. "Sorry I missed orientation." "No matter. Cassandra can catch you up." His eyes moved between us with gentle curiosity. "You two know each other?" Cassandra answered before I could. Layla's repairing a family heirloom for me. Pure coincidence we're both here. Brother Michael's expression suggested he didn't quite believe in coincidences. Well, the universe works in mysterious ways. Come, join the others. He led us to a table where two people were already seated, a woman with cropped dark hair and multiple ear piercings, and a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a worn wedding band. Emma? Thomas, meet our last arrivals, Brother Michael said. I'll leave you all to get acquainted. As he drifted away, Emma leaned forward. First-timers, right? It shows. Thomas chuckled. Don't mind Emma, she's on her 4th retreat. Practically staff at this point. 2nd, actually, Emma corrected, serving herself from a dish of roasted vegetables. First was with my ex. This time, I'm flying solo. I felt Cassandra tense slightly beside me. Same, she said after a moment. Post-breakup healing and all that? Emma raised her water glass. To moving on? We all clinked glasses in a toast that felt oddly ceremonial. Thomas turned to me. And what brings you here, Layla? I hesitated, uncomfortable with personal questions from strangers. Just needed some quiet. She fixes watches, Cassandra interjected. Creates order from chaos. And you? Thomas asked her. I deal in antiques, find lost treasures and return them to where they belong. Emma raised an eyebrow. Sounds romantic. Less than you'd think, Cassandra replied with a slight edge. Dinner continued pleasantly enough, though I found myself growing increasingly aware of Cassandra beside me, the way she gestured when she spoke, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when listening, the faint scent of her perfume. Later, Brother Michael announced a bonfire in the central courtyard. As everyone moved outside, Cassandra touched my arm. Want to skip it? I found something yesterday I'd like to show you. Curiosity piqued, I followed her away from the crowd and down a winding path that led deeper into the monastery grounds. The evening air had turned crisp, stars emerging in the darkening sky above. Where are we going? I finally asked, as we moved further from the lights. Patience. It's just ahead. The path opened onto a small garden enclosed by stone walls. In the center stood an ancient sundial, its stone face weathered by centuries of elements. How did you find this place? I asked, moving closer to examine the sundial's intricate markings. I explore when I'm anxious. Cassandra joined me, our shoulders touching. It's how I deal with things. And what are you anxious about? She was silent for a moment, looking up at the emerging stars. Being here, what comes next? You. The last word hung between us, weighted with possibility. Me? I didn't expect you to come, she said softly. And I definitely didn't expect to feel. When she didn't continue, I turned toward her. Feel what? Like maybe broken things can be fixed after all. Something shifted in that moment, a recognition of shared wounds, of possibilities. Without thinking, I reached for her hand in the darkness. Her fingers interlaced with mine, warm and certain. I don't know if I'm ready for this, I whispered honestly. We're just standing in a garden, she replied, but her thumb traced small circles on my palm, belying her casual words. We stayed that way for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, shoulders touching, hands linked, both staring at the ancient sundial that had witnessed countless human moments just like ours. When we finally walked back toward our cabins, the bonfire was dying down, most retreaters already retired for the night. At my door, Cassandra hesitated. Tomorrow the silence begins, she said. No talking for 3 days. How will we communicate? She smiled. We'll figure it out. As she turned to go, something impulsive rose in me. Cassandra? She looked back, her face half-shadowed in the moonlight. I'm glad I came, I said simply. Her smile deepened. Get some sleep, watchmaker. Tomorrow we learn to listen instead of speak. As I watched her disappear into her cabin, I wondered how silence could possibly contain whatever was growing between us, as delicate and precise as the mechanisms I spent my life repairing. The morning bell rang at 6 a.m., signaling the beginning of our 3-day vow of silence. I lay in bed, watching dust motes dance in the sunbeams streaming through my window, wondering how I'd survive without words. My entire life revolved around precision, in language as much as in my work. When I finally ventured outside, the monastery grounds felt transformed. Without conversation, everything else intensified: birdsong, the rustle of leaves, even the sound of my own breathing. Retreaters nodded in silent greeting as we made our way to morning meditation. Brother Michael sat cross-legged at the front of the hall, eyes closed, back straight. One by one, we found our places on cushions arranged in concentric circles. I spotted Cassandra across the room, her blonde hair caught in a loose braid, eyes already closed in concentration. Meditation had never been my strong suit. While others seemed to sink easily into stillness, my mind raced, cataloging every sound, planning watch repairs, wondering what was hidden in Cassandra's timepiece. 15 minutes in, I gave up trying to empty my mind, and instead focused on my breathing, counting seconds like the ticking of a perfect watch. When I opened my eyes at the session's end, I found Cassandra watching me, a small smile playing at her lips. She stood gracefully and walked to the door, pausing to glance back, an invitation. I followed her to a small courtyard, where breakfast was laid out buffet style. As we filled our plates, her hand brushed mine deliberately, the contact sending warmth up my arm. Communication without words. Later, during walking meditation along the forest path, I found a small folded note tucked into the pocket of my jacket. I hadn't seen her place it there. "Time moves differently in silence," it read in elegant script. "Meet me at the sundial garden after lunch?" I looked up to find her several paces ahead, not looking back. Slipping the note back into my pocket, I felt like a teenager passing notes in class, a flutter of anticipation in my chest. The sundial garden was dappled with afternoon light when I arrived. Cassandra sat on a stone bench, writing in a small notebook. She looked up as I approached, patting the space beside her. "I thought we might try this," she wrote, showing me her notebook. "Old-fashioned but effective." I accepted the pen she offered. "Isn't this cheating?" I wrote back. She shrugged, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Creative interpretation of the rules." For the next hour, we passed the notebook back and forth, our handwriting filling page after page. "Why watches?" she asked. "I like fixing what others consider beyond repair," I replied. "Things have logic. People are messier." "What about you? Why antiques?" "Every object has a story. I collect stories as much as things, connections to the past." "Is that what your watch is? A connection?" Her pen hesitated. "Yes, but also a mystery." "Because of the chip?" She nodded, then wrote, "My ex worked in tech. Whatever she hid in that watch, she thought it worth stealing half our inventory to cover her tracks. When I fix it, will you tell me what you find?" Her gaze met mine, serious now. "Do you always need to know how stories end?" I considered this. "I'm more interested in how things work. Endings are just another mechanism." Spoken like someone afraid of their own story. Her words hit uncomfortably close to home. As I struggled for a response, droplets began to darken the paper. Rain, starting softly then quickly intensifying. Cassandra snapped the notebook shut, grabbing my hand as we made a dash for the nearest shelter, a small greenhouse at the garden's edge. We burst through the door just as the downpour became torrential, rain hammering against the glass panels. Inside, the air was warm and thick, with the scent of earth and growing things. Orchids bloomed in exotic profusion, their delicate petals almost luminescent in the strange stormlight. We stood dripping, still holding hands, suddenly aware of our isolation. Cassandra's shirt clung to her shoulders, her hair darkened by rain. Without the notebook between us, silence felt charged with all we couldn't say. She reached up slowly, brushing wet strands of hair from my face, her touch whisper light against my skin. My heart hammered against my ribs as she leaned closer, her eyes asking a question. I answered by closing the distance between us, my lips meeting hers in a kiss that tasted of rain and possibility. Her hands slipped around my waist, pulling me closer as the storm raged outside. When we finally broke apart, her eyes were dark with wanting, her breath quick. No words needed or allowed to express what had just shifted between us. The rain continued for hours, trapping us in our greenhouse sanctuary. We sat among the orchids, sometimes writing in the now damp notebook, sometimes communicating through touch alone, her head on my shoulder, my fingers tracing patterns on her palm. By the time we made it back to our cabins, night had fallen. At my door, Cassandra pressed one last lingering kiss to my lips before disappearing into the darkness. Inside, I found myself touching my lips, still feeling the imprint of hers. In the silence of my room, with only the sound of lingering rain on the roof, I realized how much noise I'd been using to drown out my loneliness. The second day of silence began with a guided meditation focused on past relationships. Brother Michael's written instructions were simple. Visualize your most significant loss. Sit with it without judgment. I sat cross-legged on my cushion, eyes closed, reluctantly summoning Caroline's face. 6 years together, ended with a note and empty drawers. I'd come home from a watch restoration conference to find half our apartment bare, as if she'd never existed. "You're more married to those damn watches than to me," she'd written. "I can't compete with precision gears and tiny screwdrivers anymore." The memory still stung, but something had shifted. As Caroline's face formed in my mind, it blurred around the edges, no longer razor-sharp with pain. Instead, unbidden, Cassandra appeared. Her green eyes, the taste of her lips, the way her hand fit perfectly in mine. When I opened my eyes, I found Cassandra watching me from across the circle, her expression unreadable. After the session, she brushed past me, slipping another note into my hand before disappearing down the path toward the lake. "Meet me at my cabin after dinner," it read. My pulse quickened. The day crawled by. I tried focusing on the breathing exercises, the walking meditation, the mindful eating practice, but my thoughts repeatedly circled back to Cassandra waiting in her cabin. By the time evening arrived, bringing with it a symphony of cicadas and the scent of pine, I was a bundle of anticipation. I knocked softly on her door. When it opened, Cassandra stood backlit by candlelight, her hair loose around her shoulders. She took my hand and drew me inside, closing the door behind us. Her cabin mirrored mine in layout but felt entirely different, more lived in somehow, with a shawl draped over a chair and a small vase of wildflowers on the windowsill. Candles flickered on every surface, casting dancing shadows on the walls. She led me to the bed where her notebook lay open. "I couldn't stop thinking about you today," she'd written. The candlelight caught the gold flecks in her eyes as she watched me read. I took the pen. "I'm scared of how fast this is happening." She nodded, writing, "Me too. But some mechanisms are meant to work together." I smiled at her, borrowing my metaphor. "We barely know each other." "Does that matter?" she wrote. "What do you feel?" What did I feel? Attraction, certainly, powerful, magnetic, but also something deeper stirring, something I'd thought permanently broken after Caroline left. Instead of writing a response, I leaned forward and kissed her, my hands cradling her face. She responded immediately, drawing me closer, her mouth warm and insistent against mine. The notebook slid forgotten to the floor. Her fingers tangled in my hair as she pulled me down beside her on the narrow bed. In the flickering candlelight, we explored each other with hands and lips, the enforced silence making every touch more deliberate, more meaningful. I traced the curve of her neck with my fingertips, feeling her pulse quicken beneath my touch. She shivered, her eyes never leaving mine as she slowly unbuttoned my shirt, pushing it from my shoulders. The cool air raised goosebumps on my skin until her warm hands smoothed them away. The world narrowed to the space between us, her skin against mine, the sound of her breathing growing quicker, the way she arched beneath my touch. Words weren't necessary as we learned each other's rhythms, building a silent language of desire and response. Afterward, we lay tangled together, her head resting on my chest, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. Outside, a gentle rain began to fall, pattering against the roof in a soothing cadence. I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes again, Cassandra was sitting up, wrapped in a blanket, looking down at me with an expression so tender it made my chest ache. "What?" I whispered, forgetting our vow for a moment. She pressed a finger to my lips, smiling, then reached for the notebook. "You called out in your sleep. Caroline's name." I felt heat rise to my cheeks, embarrassment washing over me. Before I could take the pen to apologize, she wrote again. "It's okay. Healing isn't linear." I took the pen. "I think I'm starting to heal because of you." Her smile was sad as she wrote, "Be careful, I'm broken too." I pulled her back down beside me, wrapping my arms around her as if I could somehow hold her brokenness together with mine. We fell asleep that way, the candles burning low, rain tapping gently at the windows, as if the world outside had receded, leaving only this moment, this connection. When dawn broke, spilling golden light across the rumpled sheets, I woke to find Cassandra watching me, her expression open and vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. Without speaking, she traced the contour of my face with her fingertip, as if memorizing me. The silence between us felt no longer like a restriction but a gift, a space where something new and fragile was taking root. The third day of silence began like the others: meditation, mindful walking, shared glances with Cassandra across the dining hall. But unlike the previous days, I felt a lightness in my chest, as if something calcified had finally begun to dissolve. After breakfast, I was returning to my cabin when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I'd forgotten I even had it. The monastery's poor reception had rendered it useless until now. Surprised, I pulled it out to find 5 missed calls and a text from my sister: "Mom in hospital, call a sap." My blood ran cold. Standing frozen on the path, I stared at the screen until a hand on my shoulder startled me. Brother Michael stood there, eyebrows raised in question, pointing to my phone. I showed him the message, panic rising in my throat. He nodded immediately, gesturing for me to follow him to the administrative building where silence rules were suspended for emergencies. "Use the landline in my office," he said once we were inside. "Better connection." My hands trembled as I dialed my sister's number. The 10 seconds it took her to answer felt like eternity. "Layla? Thank God." Melissa's voice was thick with exhaustion. "Mom had a fall, broke her hip. Surgery went fine, but she's asking for you." Relief and guilt collided in my chest. "I'll leave right away." "She's stable," Melissa assured me. "But she's going to need help during recovery. I can't take that much time off work with the kids." The implication hung between us. I'd need to go back to Lexington immediately, stay with Mom during her recovery. The retreat, Cassandra, everything would have to wait. "Text me the hospital details," I said. "I'll be there tonight." After hanging up, I stood in Brother Michael's office, trying to collect myself. He waited patiently, hands folded. "Family emergency," I explained. "I need to leave today." "Of course," he nodded. "Would you like me to inform the others at lunch that you've gone?" I thought of Cassandra, of leaving without explanation. "No, I need to tell someone myself. Can I break silence for that?" His eyes were kind. "Some situations transcend our practices. Go with peace, Layla." I packed quickly, throwing clothes haphazardly into my bag, mind already racing ahead to hospital visits and care schedules. As I zipped the suitcase, a soft knock came at my door. Cassandra stood there, concern etched on her face. She'd seen me walking with Brother Michael, noted my absence from morning activities. I pulled her inside and closed the door. "My mom's in the hospital," I said, words rushing out after days of silence. "Broken hip. I need to leave right away." Her face fell. "Oh, Layla, is she okay?" "She will be, but she'll need me there." I hesitated. "I don't know for how long." Something flickered in Cassandra's eyes, a shadow I couldn't interpret. She took a step back, arms crossing protectively across her chest. "So you're just going?" The shift in her tone caught me off guard. "I have to. She's my mother." "Of course you do." Her voice was tight. "You should hurry then." "Cassandra." I reached for her hand, but she moved away. "What's wrong?" She laughed, a hollow sound without humor. "Nothing, it's fine, go." But it clearly wasn't fine. Her body language had completely changed, closed off, defensive. I recognized the posture from our first meeting, when she'd spoken about her ex's betrayal. "Talk to me," I pressed. "We have 3 more days here. I'll come back as soon as I can." "Don't." The word was sharp. "Don't make promises you can't keep." Everyone always has a reason to leave. Understanding dawned. "This isn't about us, it's an emergency." "It always is," she said quietly. "With my ex, it was a family business opportunity in Prague. She just never mentioned it included taking our inventory with her." I felt a flare of anger. "I'm not her. And that's not fair." "No, it's not. None of it is." She turned away, shoulders tight. I knew this was happening too fast. "Cassandra, please. I'm coming back." "Are you?" She faced me again, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Or is this just a convenient exit from something that got too intense too quickly?" Her accusations stung all the more because part of me wondered if she was right. Had I secretly been relieved to have an excuse to step back, catch my breath? "That's not what's happening," I said. but my voice lacked conviction even to my own ears. She must have heard it too because she nodded once, sharply. "Go take care of your mother, Layla, that's what matters now." Without another word she walked out, leaving the door open behind her. I stood frozen, torn between chasing after her and the urgent need to get on the road. Finally I grabbed my bag and headed for my car, an ache in my chest that had nothing to do with worry for my mother. As I drove away from Willow Creek, the monastery disappeared in my rearview mirror, taking with it the fragile connection I'd begun to build with Cassandra. A connection that now felt as broken as the timepiece still waiting on my workbench back home. Mom's recovery progressed slowly but steadily. For 2 weeks, I divided my time between her house and my workshop, where Cassandra's watch sat untouched, a constant reminder of everything left unfinished between us. I'd tried calling the monastery to leave a message, but was told they couldn't interrupt the retreat for non-emergencies. Instead, I poured my frustration into work, staying late each night, fixing everyone's broken timepieces except the one that mattered most. "You look terrible," my sister remarked one evening, arriving to take the night shift with Mom. "When's the last time you slept?" I shrugged, gathering my tools. "I'm fine." "You're not." She blocked the doorway. "Mom's worried, I'm worried. Go home and sleep. Or better yet, go finish whatever's got you checking your phone every 5 minutes. I didn't argue. Back at my workshop, I finally turned my attention to Cassandra's watch. The mysterious chip had been bothering me for days. Under my magnifying glass, I carefully extracted it, a custom-built microprocessor, sophisticated and definitely not something that belonged in an antique timepiece. I was examining it when the bell above my door chimed. Looking up, my heart stopped. Cassandra stood there, backlit by afternoon sun, looking both familiar and somehow changed, her hair shorter, her expression guarded. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "You're back," I finally managed. I finished the retreat. She stepped inside, letting the door close behind her. "Your message said my watch was ready." I blinked in confusion. "I never left a message." "Oh." She seemed equally surprised. "Someone called saying you'd completed the repairs." A chill ran down my spine. Someone wanted her here, or wanted the watch. I glanced down at the disassembled timepiece on my workbench. "I haven't finished it yet," I said carefully. "But I found something." Her eyes followed mine to the microchip. "What is it?" "I was hoping you could tell me." Cassandra approached the workbench slowly. "May I?" When I nodded, she picked up the chip, examining it with expert eyes. "It's a transponder of some kind. GPS, maybe? A tracking device inside an antique watch? Why would your ex do that?" She set it down carefully. "I don't know, but I intend to find out." The professional distance between us felt wrong after the intimacy we'd shared. I needed to explain to make her understand. About the monastery. "Don't," she cut me off. "It doesn't matter now. It matters to me." I stepped closer. "My mother's better. I would have come back." Something softened in her expression. "Would you? Really?" "Yes." I reached for her hand, relief flooding through me when she didn't pull away. "I've thought about you every day." "I've been angry with you," she admitted. "And that scared me because I shouldn't care this much." "But you do?" Her fingers tightened around mine. "More than makes sense." The tension between us shifted, electric with possibility. I tugged her hand gently, drawing her closer. "I want to show you something," I said. "Can you get away for a few hours?" Her hesitation was brief. "Where are we going?" An hour later, we were climbing the trail to Lookout Point, the highest spot in Lexington's nature preserve. The afternoon was fading into evening, painting the October sky in dramatic oranges and purples. "Is this where you bring all your clients?" Cassandra asked as we reached the summit, slightly breathless from the climb. "Only the ones who run away to monasteries and don't leave forwarding addresses." Her laugh was unexpected and bright. "Fair enough." We stood side by side, looking out over the rolling hills, blazing with autumn colors. The city lay spread below us, lights beginning to twinkle as dusk deepened. "When I was 15, I said quietly, my father left us. Just packed a bag one day and disappeared. No explanation, no forwarding address, just gone." Cassandra turned to look at me. "Layla." Caroline did the same thing. Different reasons, same exit. I met her gaze. I needed you to know why. I understand why you were afraid when I left. I get it. But I'm not them. I come back. The last light caught in her eyes, turning them to liquid gold. I believe you. This time when we kissed, it felt like coming home. Her arms slid around my neck as mine encircled her waist, pulling her closer. The mountain breeze tangled in her hair as I traced the curve of her jaw with my fingers, relearning her. What began as gentle reconnection quickly deepened into something more urgent. Her back pressed against the trunk of an old oak tree as my hands slipped beneath her sweater, finding warm skin. She gasped against my mouth, fingers tightening in my hair. I missed you, she whispered, the words catching as my lips traced a path down her neck. Time seemed suspended as we rediscovered each other there on the mountainside, wrapped in deepening twilight. Her body arched against mine, our breathing synchronized, creating a rhythm as perfect as any timepiece I'd ever crafted. Later, as we lay tangled together on the blanket I'd brought, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky, Cassandra propped herself up on one elbow. You fix watches, she said thoughtfully. You bring order to broken things. It's what I do. She traced a pattern on my bare shoulder. Maybe we're both a little broken. Maybe that's okay. I pulled her down for another kiss, knowing she was right. Some breaks can never be perfectly repaired, but the mended places often become the strongest parts, and sometimes the most beautiful. 6 months can change everything. As I put the final touches on Mrs. Henderson's grandfather clock, I smiled at the sound of the front bell chiming. Without looking up, I knew who it was. Just in time, I called out. The Henderson piece is finally done. Cassandra appeared in my workshop doorway, a steaming coffee in each hand. 3 weeks of restoration for a woman who doesn't even tell time on it. She shook her head, setting my coffee beside me. Some things should be both beautiful and functional. Like us? I teased, accepting the kiss she pressed to my cheek. Exactly like us. She leaned against my workbench, watching me secure the brass pendulum. Ready for tonight? Tonight marked 6 months since we'd returned from the monastery, 6 months of building something neither of us had believed possible again. We'd planned a small celebration at the shop, which had undergone its own transformation. What had once been solely Clark's watch repair now housed timepiece treasures in the front half, Cassandra's carefully curated collection of antique clocks and watches. Our businesses complemented each other perfectly. She found the treasures, I restored them, and together we connected these pieces of history with new owners who would cherish them. Just need to change, I said, wiping my hands on a cloth. Emma and Thomas will be here at 7. Our fellow retreaters had become close friends, forming an unlikely support system. Brother Michael had even performed a small blessing ceremony for our business partnership 3 months ago, though we all knew it celebrated something deeper. As I closed up the workshop, Cassandra disappeared into the storage room, returning with a small wooden box. I was going to wait until tonight, but I'm terrible at patience. She placed it in my hands, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Inside lay 2 pocket watches. One was hers, the family heirloom I'd finally restored, now ticking perfectly. Beside it rested another watch, similar in design but clearly different. Turn it over, she urged. The inscription read, Time is measured best when shared. Forever yours, C. It belonged to my great-grandfather, she explained softly. Companion to my great-grandmothers. They were separated during the war. I found it in Prague last month. I looked up sharply. That's where you went for that auction? You said it was just business. Her smile was mysterious. Finding this was very much business and pleasure combined. I lifted the watch carefully. The craftsmanship was exquisite, every detail perfectly matched to its companion piece. They belong together. Yes, she said simply. They do. I understood the deeper meaning in her gift. These watches, created as a pair, separated by circumstance and time, now reunited after decades apart, like us. Move in with me, I said suddenly. Or I'll move in with you. Or we'll find a new place, I don't care which. I just want to wake up with you every day. For answer, she pulled me close, her lips finding mine in a kiss that held promise and certainty. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were bright. I already gave notice on my apartment. Her smile was luminous. Great minds think alike. The celebration that evening was perfect, champagne and laughter with Emma and Thomas, a surprise video call from Brother Michael, and Cassandra's hand in mine. Our matching watches ticking in synchronized rhythm on our wrists. Later that night, after everyone had gone, we stood in the now quiet shop, surveying what we'd built together. Moonlight streamed through the windows, casting gentle shadows across the glass cases filled with timepieces of every era. "Do you ever think about it?" I asked, wrapping my arms around her waist from behind. "That chip in your watch? We never did figure out why she put it there." Cassandra leaned back against me. "I decided some mysteries are better left unsolved. Whatever she was tracking, whatever she wanted, it's part of the past now." She turned in my arms to face me. "Besides, I'm much more interested in the future. Are you now?" I smiled, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "And what do you see there?" "You," she said simply. "Always you." In that moment, I understood something about time that all my years of watchmaking had never taught me. Time isn't just something to measure or repair, it's something to fill, with love, with purpose, with the perfect imperfection of finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours. As I pulled Cassandra closer for another kiss, I knew we'd created something rare and precious. Like the paired watches now reunited, we'd found our matching piece. The one that made us tick in perfect harmony, keeping time together through whatever life might bring. Some timepieces are valuable because of their pristine condition, but others, like us, are treasured for their history, for the journey evident in every scratch and repair, for the stories written in their very mechanisms, and for the beauty that comes from being broken, found, and lovingly restored.